The origins and youth of Emperor Gia Long. Nguyen, who would later become the first emperor of the Nguyễn Dynasty under the reign title Gia Long, was born on January 15th, 1762, the 8th day of the first lunar month, Năm Ngọ year, in Gia Dinh, a southern land that had long been a strategic stronghold of the Nguyen lords during their southward expansion. His given name was Nguyễn Phúc Ánh. He belonged to the lineage of Lord Nguyễn Phúc Quát and was the grandson of this lord. His father, Nguyễn Phúc Luân, was the eldest son designated by Lord Quát as the successor. However, due to interference by the powerful court official Trương Phúc Luân, Nguyễn Phúc Luân was imprisoned and later died in captivity, and the lordship was taken by his younger brother, Nguyễn Phúc Thuân, a mere child at the time. Nguyen was born during a time of great upheaval, when internal strife plagued the Nguyen clan due to power struggles, while externally, the Tây Sơn uprising surged like a tidal wave threatening all of southern Vietnam. His childhood was not spent in the luxury expected of a royal descendant, but was rather filled with suffocating days amidst political conspiracies and the looming danger of war. In 1777, the greatest upheaval of his life occurred. Tây Sơn forces, led by Nguyễn Huệ, launched a direct assault on Gia Dinh, annihilating the Nguyễn lord's power. Most of Nguyen's royal family, including Lord Nguyễn Phúc Thuân and many loyal officials, were killed. At that time, Nguyen was just 15 years old, too young to command an army, yet not too naive to understand that his life had become a fragile flicker in the storm of history. Thanks to the loyalty of Trần Văn Thijn and Tông Phước Phúc, who risked their lives to help him escape, Nguyen narrowly survived. His life as a royal child now turned into a journey of exile, relying on the protection of others, and beginning his mission to restore the Nguyen legacy. In the years that followed, Nguyen never ceased searching for opportunities to rebuild his forces. Even though he had to flee to islands, hide in forests and mountains, and at times survive by fishing, he never gave up his grand ambition of restoring the Nguyen family's power. From a fugitive teenage prince, Nguyen gradually became the leader of loyalist troops, forming alliances with southern generals such as Châu Văn Thiếp, Đỗ Thành Nhân, and Tông Phước Luân. He began to write a long and heroic chapter in Vietnamese history, the decades-long war between Nguyen and the Tây Sơn, which would last over 25 years. The arduous journey to reclaim the throne. After escaping the massacre of 1777, Nguyen began a life of exile, troop recruitment, and national restoration, a journey that spanned more than 2 decades, filled with blood, tears, betrayal, and hope. From a defeated youth to the restorer of a nation. At the age of 15, Nguyen had nothing but the title of a Nguyen heir and a small band of loyal remnants. However, what he did possess was unbreakable willpower, flexible intelligence, and a remarkable ability to rally people. With support from loyal generals such as Châu Văn Thiếp, Tông Phước Luân, and Đỗ Thành Nhân, Nguyen gradually rebuilt his forces in the Gia Dinh region, using the vast southern terrain as his base of operations. Yet fate continued to test him. Within a few years, his capable generals were either lost or killed. Châu Văn Thiếp died in battle, and Đỗ Thành Nhân was executed due to suspicion. Nguyen suffered multiple defeats, lost territories, and even had to flee to islands like Phu Quoc and Con Đảo, seeking refuge and support from Siam. Seeking foreign aid, a choice of circumstance. Under intense military pressure from the Tây Sơn, Nguyen made a bold move, seeking help from the West. In 1787, he entrusted Prince Ken to Bishop Pignot de Béhain, known in Vietnam as Ba Đa Loc, to take to France and negotiate the Treaty of Versailles with King Louis XVI. In exchange for military aid against the Tây Sơn, Nguyen agreed to cede certain coastal territories. Though France was descending into revolutionary chaos and the promised reinforcements never arrived, Ba Đa Loc personally borrowed money, purchased weapons, and brought French officers to help Nguyen train his army in European military techniques. Figures like Jean-Baptiste Chagnon and Philippe Vanier played key roles in modernizing Nguyen's forces, particularly in naval and artillery warfare. This marked a turning point. From a southern guerrilla force, Nguyen's army evolved into one of the most organized, disciplined, and modern militaries of the era. A prolonged war against the Tây Sơn, strategy and patience. Unlike the explosive and fierce Tây Sơn forces, Nguyen followed a long-term strategy, expanding gradually and consolidating every regained territory. From 1790, he began constructing the Gia Long citadel in Vauban style, creating a solid military stronghold. In 1792, Emperor Quang Nguyen died unexpectedly, and the Tây Sơn regime began to weaken. Nguyen successively reclaimed Binh Thuận, 1793, Phu Yin and Keng Hoa, 1795, and Quang Nam, 1800. In 1801, he launched a decisive battle at Phu Xuân, capturing the Tây Sơn capital. A year later, in 1802, he marched north, decisively defeating the Tây Sơn army at the Battle of Thăng Long, ending their dynasty after more than 20 years of dominance. On June 1st, 1802, Nguyen ascended the throne, proclaiming himself Emperor Gia Long, Gia from Gia Long and Long from Thăng Long, symbolizing the unification of North, Central, and South Vietnam after centuries of division. Nguyen survived a massacre and rebuilt his forces from nothing. Sought aid from France via Bishop Bad al-Luck, gaining technical and military support. Modernized his army in Western style, developing strong naval and artillery capabilities. Employed a slow, steady strategy, expanding northward region by region. Defeated the Tây Sơn, unified the country, and founded the Nguyen Dynasty in 1802. Ascension to the throne, establishment of the Nguyen Dynasty. Coronation at Phu Xuân, the beginning of a new dynasty. After the decisive victory over the Tây Sơn regime, on June 1, 1802, Nguyen officially ascended the throne in Phu Xuân, the former capital of the Tây Sơn. He adopted the reign title Gia Long, marking his transformation from an exiled general to the first emperor of the Nguyen Dynasty, the last feudal dynasty in Vietnamese history. He also submitted a formal memorial to the Qing court in China, requesting recognition and the establishment of a national title. After much deliberation, the Qing court approved the name Vietnam, a term proposed by Gia Long himself by combining Nam Viet and Nam, subtly expressing the aspiration for unifying the territory from north to south. The title Gia Long also carried significant meaning. Gia from Gia Long, where he began building his career. Long from Thăng Long, where he completed the unification of the country. It symbolized the connection between North and South, past and present, war and peace in a single reign title. Consolidating power and structuring the nation. After ascending the throne, Gia Long immediately began national reconstruction and consolidating authority after decades of turmoil. Administration. Centralized monarchy. He established a bureaucratic system modeled after the Qing's 6 ministries: personnel, revenue, rights, war, justice, and public works. The country was divided into administrative units: Trun, provinces, Dun, Phu, Huyen, districts, Tung, and Sa, villages, with officials appointed from the central court to local levels. He created the positions of Governor-General of Bac Than, Northern Citadel, and Gia Long to directly oversee these strategic regions. Law and legal system. He commissioned the compilation of the Hoang Viet Lut late Gia Long Code, based on Qing laws but adapted to suit Vietnamese conditions. The code clearly defined punishments, social status, family relations, and property rights, establishing legal stability. Construction of the imperial citadel of Hue. Gia Long ordered the construction of a new imperial city in Phu Xuân, later known as the Imperial City of Hue, following the Vauban-style fortification of France combined with traditional Vietnamese architecture. It was a massive construction project lasting many years, symbolizing the endurance of the new dynasty. Military and foreign affairs. Gia Long prioritized military strength, especially the navy, a decisive factor in his victory over the Tây Sơn. He continued to hire Western experts to train his troops. In diplomacy, he maintained formal relations with the Qing dynasty in a symbolically subordinate manner. However, he was cautious with Western powers, especially after recognizing their missionary and colonial ambitions. Religion and Catholicism. Although he once received assistance from French missionaries, Gia Long later became less supportive of Catholicism. He adopted a policy of limited tolerance, neither fully banning nor encouraging it. Midway through his reign, policies toward Catholicism shifted toward increased control, particularly as he perceived foreign missionaries as a potential threat to national sovereignty. Gia Long, in retrospect. From a modern perspective, Gia Long remains a controversial figure. He is credited with unifying the nation, restoring order, and laying the foundations for a dynasty that lasted 143 years. However, he has also been criticized for his ties to the West, for implementing an authoritarian regime, and for harsh treatment of the Tây Sơn remnants, such as exhuming Nguyen's tomb and executing his relatives. Nonetheless, it is undeniable that Gia Long ended centuries of internal conflict between the Trinh, Nguyen, and Tây Sơn factions, closed the era of civil war, and opened a new, though final, chapter in Vietnam's monarchical history. Major domestic reforms and legacy. After officially becoming emperor and unifying the country, Gia Long entered the most important phase of his career, nation building, establishing law and order, and laying the foundation for the Nguyen dynasty. The reforms under Gia Long bore the imprint of an experienced, cautious leader with deep political insight. Administration. Absolute centralized power. Gia Long organized the country following a tightly centralized system modeled on the Qing dynasty's administrative structure, while adapting it to Vietnam's context. At the central level, he established the 6 ministries: personnel, revenue, rights, war, justice, and public works. The nation was divided into 23 Trun and 4 Don, each led by a Tông Trun or Trun Thu, appointed and directly supervised by the emperor. 2 key centers, Bac Then, Northern Citadel, and Gia Then, Gia Citadel, were assigned to high-ranking generals, but remained under close court supervision. This centralized control enabled the emperor to govern the entire territory after prolonged fragmentation and to prevent the recurrence of local separatism. Law, establishing a unified legal foundation. Gia Long ordered the compilation of a national code titled Hoang Viet Luật Lệ, commonly known as the Gia Long Code, completed in 1815. The code contained 22 volumes with 398 articles, based on Qing law but adapted to Vietnamese society. Its content covered various areas: criminal, civil, marriage and family, land, taxes, social relations, and rituals. It strictly defined social order, family hierarchy, official responsibilities, and punishments. Although harsh and conservative, the Gia Long Code served as Vietnam's first unified legal system in the modern era, contributing to national stability after prolonged turmoil. Economy, reconstruction, recovery, and reclamation. After years of war, the country was devastated. Gia Long focused on economic development through land reclamation, encouraging people to settle in the south, especially the Mekong Delta. Irrigation, building dikes and dredging canals, notably the Vinh Tay Canal connecting Chodok and Ha Tien. Construction began in 1819 and was completed after his death. Stable taxation, issuing rice, salt, and grain quotas to regulate the market. Reviving markets and traditional craft villages to promote free trade. Thanks to these efforts, within a few years, many desolate lands became prosperous areas, contributing steadily to the national treasury. Culture, education, examinations. Gia Long viewed Confucianism as the ideological foundation of the nation. He restored the education and examination systems, established the Quốc Tu Giam National University in Hue, maintained the Thi Hung and Thi Hoi exams following Chinese models, built schools in the provinces to train talents for the court, encouraged book writing and historical documentation, initiated the Dai Nam Thuc Look, which became the foundation of Nguyen dynasty historiography. However, due to his background in wartime, Gia Long's thinking remained pragmatic and conservative, emphasizing loyalty to the monarchy and dismissing new ideas, which later led to intellectual stagnation in subsequent reigns. Military, defending territory and borders. Gia Long did not neglect national defense, established a professional army trained in Western military techniques, built fortresses and strongholds across strategic regions, strengthened the navy, built ships, and enhanced artillery capabilities, asserted sovereignty over the Paracel, Hoang Sa, and Spratly, Trung Sa Islands by organizing the Hoang Sa Fleet for annual maritime patrols. He also left behind a relatively detailed national map outlining territorial boundaries and asserting full sovereignty from Nam Quan to Ca Mau. Legacy. Gia Long died in 1820 at the age of 59. Despite controversies, his monumental historical legacy is undeniable. Unified Vietnam after centuries of fragmentation. Established the Nguyen dynasty, which lasted 143 years, 1802 to 1945. shaped a centralized political system with comprehensive legal, military, and administrative frameworks, built the imperial city of Hue, now a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site, reclaimed and stabilized the southern region, transforming wasteland into fertile rice fields. Death, historical assessment, and lasting legacy. The death of a warrior emperor. After nearly 20 years of peaceful reign and more than 25 years of warfare across Vietnam's 3 regions, Gia Long, the founding emperor of the Nguyen Dynasty, passed away on February 3, 1820, at the age of 59. He drew his final breath in the imperial city of Hue after a prolonged illness. His eldest son, Nguyễn Phúc Ánh, succeeded him and took the throne as Emperor Minh Mang, a ruler known for his intelligence, decisiveness, and great ambition. Gia Long's remains were interred at Thiên Thọ Mausoleum in Hung Tra, Thua Thien, a mountain he personally selected during his lifetime as his final resting place. This was the first imperial tomb, marking the beginning of the Nguyen Dynasty's royal mausoleum complex, a rich cultural heritage of Vietnam that still stands today. Historical judgment, a nation builder, or a traitor? From a historical perspective, Gia Long is a complex figure, a man embodying both the light of national unification and the shadow of political conservatism. Undeniable achievements. Unified the country after centuries of fragmentation, ending the Trinh Nguyen Tây Sơn civil wars. Established a stable dynasty with well-defined administrative, legal, military, and economic systems. Reclaimed and stabilized the southern territories, especially the Mekong Delta, transforming it from wasteland into Vietnam's rice basket. Built the imperial city of Hue, constructed fortresses, secured borders, and asserted maritime sovereignty. Controversial criticisms. Allied with Western powers, signed a treaty ceding land, though never implemented, seen by some as inviting foreign intervention. Took brutal revenge on the Tây Sơn, including exhuming Emperor Quang Trung's tomb and executing his family members. Exercised absolute centralized power, reinforcing feudal autocracy, which later led to intellectual stagnation. Missed opportunities for reform and openness, despite early contact with Western powers. Legacy, imprinted in the shape of the nation. Despite ongoing debates, Gia Long left a profound mark on Vietnam's history. The national name, Vietnam, was officially used for the first time and continues to this day. A unified territorial map from north to south, forming the nearly complete shape of modern Vietnam. The Nguyen Dynasty endured for 143 years, with 13 emperors, the longest-lasting feudal dynasty in Vietnam since the Le and Trun. Tangible cultural heritage, the imperial city of Hue, royal tombs, legal codes, and historical records of the Nguyen Dynasty laid the foundation for the development of southern Vietnam, later becoming the country's wealthiest region. Modern perspective, a fairer and more comprehensive view. Today, with a more objective lens, modern historians no longer view Gia Long simply as a traitor or cruel avenger. Instead, he is seen as a resilient strategist, a wise ruler who made historical compromises to restore national unity. He was not an idealized hero, but a real man, one with strength, contradictions, and resolve, who opened a new chapter in Vietnam's dynastic history. The successor and the transfer of power after Gia Long. The chosen heir, Prince Dam. Even during his lifetime, Gia Long carefully prepared for the succession. Among his sons, he chose his 4th son, Nguyễn Phúc Ánh, a man praised for his intelligence, composure, and deep understanding of Confucianism, rituals, and national law. Nguyễn Phúc Ánh was the son of Empress Thua Thien Cao, Tông Thị Lan, Gia Long's principal wife, whom he deeply trusted and respected. Choosing Dam as crown prince showed that Gia Long did not follow primogeniture, but instead prioritized merit and virtue, reflecting his pragmatism and caution in securing the newly established dynasty. The coronation. Minh Mang ascends the throne. After Gia Long's death in early 1820, Nguyễn Phúc Ánh officially ascended the throne under the reign title Minh Mang. The coronation ceremony took place in the imperial city of Hue with full traditional rituals, symbolizing legitimate succession and avoiding any internal disputes. Although the son of a monarch who had once accepted Western support, Emperor Minh Mang held strong Confucian beliefs, leaned toward Eastern traditions, was anti-Western, and firmly loyal to the ideals of absolutist monarchy. This marked the beginning of a new era in Nguyen Dynasty history, an era of centralized reform, flourishing Confucianism, and increasing isolation from the outside world. Philosophy of succession, continuity, and contrast. Gia Long was an experienced, cautious, and pragmatic man. He had cooperated with the West, leveraged religious forces, and showed flexibility when necessary. Yet he chose as his successor Min Mang, a ruler with a conservative, anti-foreign, and purely Confucian orientation. This choice was not contradictory, but part of a long-term strategy. Gia Long embraced openness to found the state, but he understood that preserving it required firmness and stability, especially as foreign powers were increasingly intent on deeper intrusion. Min Mang was the one to assume control at a time when the country needed stricter discipline, reinforcement of rituals and laws, and cultivation of national identity. Under Min Mang, many of Gia Long's policies were expanded, but with increased centralization, stricter control over religion, and especially a gradual closure to the West, laying the foundation for future tensions with foreign powers. A smooth dynastic transition, rare in history. Vietnamese history had often witnessed fierce struggles for the throne and fratricidal conflict, but Gia Long achieved something few rulers managed: a peaceful and legitimate transfer of power. No internal turmoil, no civil strife, no rivalry among princes. This was a testament to the stability Gia Long left behind and to his skillful arrangement of succession. At the right time, to the right person, in the right way. Summary of the role and historical significance of Emperor Gia Long. From exiled youth to nation-building emperor. Vietnamese history has witnessed many heroes who built and defended the nation, but few had a journey as arduous, prolonged, and dramatic as that of Nguyễn Phúc Ánh. From a teenage boy who narrowly escaped death during the Tây Sơn upheaval in 1777, he wandered through mountains and remote islands, surviving countless hardships and once dismissed as a remnant unworthy of mention from the Nguyen family. Yet, with extraordinary willpower, perseverance, and rare organizational talent, he gradually rebuilt his forces, won hearts, reclaimed the country, and eventually proclaimed himself emperor with the reign title Gia Long in 1802. A monarch of stability. After a century of civil war, Gia Long was not just a victor, he was a restorer of order. After centuries of fragmentation, from the Triton-Nguyen divide to the Tây Sơn uprising, he was the first to unify all Vietnamese territory from north to south, shaping a national map nearly identical to today's. He ended a bloody era and ushered in a relatively long period of peace. The Nguyễn Dynasty he founded lasted 143 years, making it the longest feudal dynasty in Vietnam's modern history. The founder of a centralized feudal state. Gia Long built a solid autocratic monarchy, established a comprehensive administrative system, dividing the country into provinces, setting up ministries, and managing affairs from central to local levels. Issued the Hoang Viet Luật Lệ, the first codified and nationwide legal system of the modern era. Strengthened the military, built the imperial citadel, developed irrigation, and expanded southern territories. Officially declared the national title as Vietnam, the first time it was formally adopted. These reforms laid the foundation for long-term national governance and stability, despite the era's limitations and ideological conservatism. A complex historical figure, light and shadow in tandem, Gia Long was not an idealized figure. He was a product of his time, a time when strategy, punishment, compromise, and even cruelty were means of survival. Highlights: unified the nation, ended civil wars, founded a structured and large-scale dynasty, strengthened national sovereignty, advanced economy and culture. Controversies: ties with foreign powers. France once ceded territory in the Treaty of Versailles, though it had no long-term effect. Harsh treatment of the Tây Sơn remnants. Implemented extreme centralization, leading to stagnation and closure in later reigns. Nevertheless, modern perspectives have become more balanced, acknowledging not only his flaws, but also his stature as a nation builder during a tragic chapter of history. A legacy that lives on with the nation. Gia Long's legacy is not only written in history books, it still lives in the shape of the nation. The national title, Vietnam, remains in use to this day. The imperial city of Hue and the Nguyen dynasty's royal tombs, now World Cultural Heritage Sites. The administrative structure, legal code, and territorial map serve as foundations and references for future generations. the development of the southern region contributed to the formation of a diverse, resource-rich modern Vietnam. Gia Long, Nguyễn Phúc Ánh, was more than a dynasty founder. He was a symbol of fierce survival, a unifier with political pragmatism. He may not have been the most perfect monarch, but he was undoubtedly one of the greatest in Vietnam's history. A man who left behind the blood and storms, stood at the dawn of a solid dynasty, and left future generations with questions and lessons about the cost of unity, power, and the human heart.